And good morning, and welcome to the January 27th edition of the NBA Betting Show. My name is Mike Lockey. I'm joined with Matt Meiselman today. Mike G is not going to be with us. That's all right. We're going to keep the ball rolling. Matt, let's briefly look at today very
Yeah,
quickly.
let's
There's
do
only
that.
5 games on a Friday. To me, that's the least number of games on a Friday I can remember this season. However, it looks like there might be a bet in all 5 games if news breaks a certain way. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think there's something to watch for everything, so we'll do a full breakdown here. It also looks like Mike G may be joining us, so let's see if we can. Let me see if I can navigate this really quickly. Hold on. I don't know if he knows that we're already on, but let's see if I can make this work. Maybe it won't work. Okay, that was a pretty smooth transition. Zoom is pretty good today, I think.
All
I
right.
was expecting to see like boxes of our faces all over the screen, but he slotted in well. Mike, we're already on, so welcome.
Oh, sorry. You could.
We just started live
You
live in
missed.
the first 1 minute.
We did the intro and we're like, here's what we're going to talk about today. We got some games coming up, and now you're here.
Sorry about that.
No. That is totally cool. No, you have to leave
I,
now.
I was going to just leave it to the two of you, but I need to be on for my Ben Simmons take when we get to that.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I was excited to hear about
You
that.
sprinted across the house to make sure that you could help with the recap, because that is the first game we're going to talk about. So let's just do it now. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I am ready.
All right, let's go back
Cool.
to yesterday. Um, so yesterday we were on talking about how we might have Detroit bets if the Brooklyn guys sat, and they really should have, because we also were showing Brooklyn value with no one sat, and we ended up getting that outcome. So the only guy who didn't play for the Nets was Seth Curry, which moved the projected. I think the projected line moved by like 0.3. He's very mildly relevant.
Mhm.
So we had Nets bets. This might be one before we get too far into this game, just to point out that one of the reasons we care about closing line value is because we don't know everything. And there may be issues with players that someone who maybe is in the arena or has a contact with the team knows, and we just are never going to know that stuff unless a beat writer or a coach says it explicitly in public. So
Sure.
for this game, when we found out Kyrie and Simmons weren't going to be resting, the spread moved from 7.5 to 9, and then it closed at 7.5. It actually came back. And anytime that happens, like that was too much for just Seth Curry. Someone may have been watching warm-ups, watching Ben Simmons in particular, and just being like, this guy's not healthy tonight. And the way the game went, clearly he was just terrible. So I don't think we change anything in terms of process because of this, because I do think we value the closing line already. Like, it is not our number one variable, but we do care about it. And anytime we're beating the closing line, we do have more confidence in our picks. It's just that there is uncertainty that is not accessible even to us who are paying very close attention.
Sometimes the market knows slightly more than we do, and
And
that's something we have to stay humble about.
yeah, and I think that may not have been true in this case, but it also might have been. Like,
Yeah.
it explains why the line moved the way it did when we were projecting it, further along than it was.
Yeah,
Some of
actually,
that may
my
have
only
been the
comment on
news,
that.
but yeah, go ahead.
My only comment on that was I had made the 7.5 bet when that injury report came out,
Hmm.
and I was all proud of myself because I saw 8.5 real quick. I did see a couple nines. I was like, okay, cool. We got this bet in. It's about where I want it. I'll probably just stand pat. And Mike ended up texting me right before game time, asking me if he wanted more on 7.5. And I was like, I wasn't really plugged in at the time. And I couldn't even believe the line was back to 7.5. I was like,
Yeah,
what do you mean
I
it's
had
at
missed
seven and a half?
I had missed the first 7.5, and missed it going up. I didn't even see it. I was late to the game. I just saw the 7.5. I'm like, ooh, we're still showing almost 2.5 points of value. So I thought maybe more. But my only regret on this one is there. If there was one piece of information that I had known, I don't want to say I would have predicted it, but this is so I didn't realize. I was a little disconnected the last couple of days. I didn't realize that Simmons got benched in the fourth quarter of the Sixers game. Are you guys aware of this? So
Foul,
sat him
not
the
foul
last
trouble.
8
They
minutes.
just sat him. Okay.
No, they sat him because Jacques Vaughn was really annoyed at how this lack of aggression on the offensive end. So apparently this was a known thing. Somehow I missed it. I was just,
I was watching that game
and
and it didn't come up on the broadcast. I didn't notice. I mean, I'm not paying attention to all 10 players on every
Yeah.
play. But,
I mean, it also
I
made
didn't
sense
notice
given
that.
where that game was at that he wouldn't play in the fourth. I mean, they were down 15, and he's not part of their offense first lineup. He's mostly a defensive player. So
Yeah.
I guess it could have been, you could have just said it was that.
I'm
But
saying that-
you have specific information, so yeah.
Yeah, like I read it in a few different sources early this morning because there was discussion. Like basically, have you seen the Jacques Vaughn commentary about Simmons or just about his team last night?
No.
Not
He's
last
saying
night.
he took basic. It was almost LeBron-esque in terms of the subtweets. He's basically saying the guys who are ready to play, the guys who came in with the right mindset. I'm proud of those guys. He said a bunch of things and never specifically called Simmons out, but it's very clear. I'm just saying that given my history of watching Simmons, and again, I was at that last game in Philadelphia when they lost to Atlanta. It wasn't just the last play. It was a guy who did not want to be on the court, didn't want to touch the ball. I'm telling you, there's something going on. I think, and if I had known he was benched, I'm not saying I would have predicted that the line should be different, but I would have been hesitant to make a Brooklyn bet.
Right.
And I have no specific knowledge of this, but it wouldn't surprise me. Like when I sent the message to you guys last night when I saw the Simmons box score of 20 minutes and 0 points on 3 shots. I didn't know anything about this, but I was thinking, look at knee soreness. So he got poked in the eye, and then they called it knee soreness for why he didn't come back. Like I'm saying, this is not specific knowledge, but I have a strong gut feel here. The line moved because somebody saw him with the real negative body language and based on the benching was thinking, all right, well, maybe something weird is going on.
Yeah, Simmons is probably worth 1 point to the spread, right?
Yeah, that the line movement could have been explained if Simmons just got ruled out 5 seconds before tip-off.
Right.
So all that would have done for us was just we would have stayed away from it.
Yeah, like I said, that's more. It's not that it just would have made things a little more fragile.
Yeah. The other unfortunate thing that happened here is Alec Burks got announced as the starting point guard about 1 minute before tip-off.
Right.
The Pistons waited a really long time to put out their starting lineup, and then
I heard
Burks
Greg
got the
on
start.
Twitter talking about this, and we love when Alex Burks gets time.
Not when we bet against the team, though.
Right,
I mean,
yes,
of all the
yeah,
times for
obviously.
it to happen, he hasn't started yet. I think the whole season. This was his first start. So that because he was really good last night and played extra minutes. Like they just decided they wanted to win this game for some reason. They just
I have a just a broad concept here. Like I also, when a team scores 122 and loses these days, I struggle to see, I wonder, did the Pistons just shoot insane? Right, they had a 43-point quarter.
Yeah.
No team is able to beat those kind of outputs sometimes, no matter who you are. So there is a certain amount of randomness in the NBA that bad teams can play catch up if they're shooting well.
Yeah, I mean there were only 11 threes though. I think the Nets just didn't defend. If I had to guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It wasn't
This Nets team
threes.
has
It was just
confused me
bad defense.
all the last 2 seasons. I haven't been able to figure them out one time.
Yeah. I think also Pistons games have been
now-
higher pace lately for whatever reason. I don't know what that is, but they had a 150 to 130 game against Milwaukee recently. The
Yeah.
team may just be emphasizing running up and down the court. And so it may not have been defense really, it was just a high pace game. This game only went over the total by 15 points. Which is a lot, but it's not like this was a really high total to begin with. So I think it's just kind of the way the game went. But the Nets certainly didn't play good defense, whether it was random, good shooting or not. The result was bad. All right.
What a fall from grace, Ben Simmons. I mean, it reminds me of, I want to throw a little throwback here. Rick Ankiel, I believe, was the guy that just lost. He forgot how to pitch all of a sudden and couldn't even get it to the catcher. So I don't know. The yips, I've heard it more in golf than anything, but I guess it could be basketball. Why not? It's just as mental as putting and chipping.
Yeah, he was never that good at shooting to begin with. This is just having the yips about the whole game is weird.
It is very strange.
I mean, I was a big fan of his. I didn't want them to trade him when there was the rumors, the first go around. I always felt he never really needed to be a. You guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Internet is okay. I never, like, there was all this talk he had to shoot threes. I never thought he had to shoot threes. He just had to shoot enough in the paint. He was so good at getting in the paint. He was so good at running the floor. He just needed to shoot a couple jumpers now and then. Like, he didn't have to be a three-point shooter. He just had to make some shots, even if they were his little 8-foot jump hooks.
Yeah.
But he's just stopped doing that. I think a lot of it is fear of having to go to the free throw line. He just doesn't want to be having to go shoot free throws. So, yeah,
it's my favorite part of playing
basketball. Thing
basketball
is probably extreme, but it's not crazy. This is a guy that was the number one pick in the draft. You know, this is a guy that, you know, he's made the All-Star team.
The talent is clear.
He was runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. I mean, this is a guy that should be a star. And yes, I have some personal feelings here as a Sixers fan, but I'm also a basketball observer, and it's something I've never seen. So just with this benching and now the Jacques Vaughn thing, who's been so positive, like this isn't going to end well. I just the Brooklyn team. It's going to be tough. I mean, obviously, when KD's back, everything's different because of KD. But
the Nets did have two really good. The Nets played 3 good games before this. Simmons wasn't part of the last one because the Philly comeback, he was on the bench. But they won at Golden State. They won at Utah on the second end of a back-to-back. They went
to Sacramento and won a game too.
When was that one? I don't remember. But these things oscillate. Like Simmons, I think, has gone through phases this season, so we'll just keep an eye on it, I guess. But we don't have a ton to talk about today, but we do have some stuff. So maybe, I don't know. The Nets don't play a back-to-back. We should go to the next stuff.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Unless there's anything super strong to talk about. The Nets beat writers are actually tweeting here about him while we're talking. Maybe they're in on it.
Okay.
They're just recapping yesterday's game. So the player in the NBA whose shot probably most closely resembles Ben Simmons is Mason Plumlee. I think the way his shot looks. Is that fair? He was amazing yesterday, though. And we did really well with this game because the Hornets decided to play all of their guys. And we had 3 of them listed questionable. We had Ball, we had Rozier, who was downgraded to probable, which is just strange. But I had him because I thought a downgrade to probable was more like questionable. So he was on the sheet and Hayward was there. And we had like a 4.5 to 5 point edge if they all played. And they all ended up playing, and then they won the game by 15. So the line at the time was like 6 or 6.5. After the news broke, though, this is one of those where the line changed, but then it didn't change all the way. You could have got this one after the update, as long as it was within like 10 minutes of the update. So at the time all these guys got announced active, the line was 6. The line stayed at 5 for like another 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and then it closed at 3 with no additional news. It just didn't get there right away because this was a very clear Sharps versus Square game between the Bulls and Hornets. And I did another tweet. I quote tweeted the Kings and Thunder thing and said, this game applies too. Like if you bet the Bulls yesterday, I'm very curious what you're doing. I don't know how you land on that spot.
I have a slight apology to this guy that got a little bit gagged up on the other day.
Sure.
We didn't agree with this process. I tried, a couple times to explain which parts of his process I didn't like. Some of our listeners also chimed in and maybe were a little more rude about it than I was intending. But in a way, I just want to help people, man. Like I am learning from Matt. I'm not great at this, but I'm trying to get better every day. And the only way you get better is with a good process. And we've been talking about this a lot lately, where if your process is using stuff like, the Nets record at home against a certain team over the last 4 years, right? Like that's just a completely irrelevant stat. We don't know what the lines were in those games. The rosters are likely different. The coaches are likely different. There's literally nothing but noise there. So when these people are posting all these stories, I watched you respond to a guy yesterday trying to ask him about why he's using this stuff for his process. It's a different guy I'm talking about now. And I decided not to chime in here or listen to that video because I knew it was going to make my brain melt. It's just we want people to make informed decisions with good reasoning and with good logic. And if we're beating a high rake, minus 110 on both sides, you have to do it with a lot of conviction. And I'm gonna just leave it at that and just say the process matters a lot to us and we trust the process. And that's why we're going to keep pushing on the way that we are.
Yeah, I mean, there are elements that are so obviously important to betting that most of the people that give out betting advice don't even pay attention to. Like the video you're referring to, the guy didn't even mention LaMelo Ball in the video.
Yeah.
You can't talk
Yeah,
about
that's
this
right.
game. He's
He
the
was
most
touting
relevant
the Bulls.
Yeah, it's a Hornets Bulls game. The Hornets' best player is LaMelo Ball. He was 50-50 to play last night. To not even like acknowledge that could affect things is just crazy. Yeah, because the Bulls would have been a bet if all those guys were out.
Right.
We would have been talking Bulls and under, but instead we just had the Hornets bet. So, yeah, like the Hornets are not that bad at full strength. The Hornets came into this season with a win total at 36.5, and the Bulls win total was 39.5. Kelly Oubre's out, Cody Martin is out. The Bulls are relatively healthy. These are not the exact same teams as they were before the season, but we had the Hornets rated like -3.5 as a team last night. The Bulls are like a positive 0.5. There's a 4-point gap between them, but the Hornets were getting 6 at home. And the Bulls have been on a road trip recently. So, yeah, this line was bad, and there's a reason. It closed at 3. We were projecting it 2.4, I think was the number. So the line basically moved to exactly where we had it. We weren't expecting the Hornets to win by 15, but there's going to be bad variance. There's going to be good variance. This was one of the good ones. So fortunately, we got this game because there was some messy stuff that happened after this. So the Cavs game, we had a really small edge on Houston. It's probably not even worth getting into it. Mitchell got ruled out as expected. Kevin Love also got downgraded. There was like a 1.5 point edge. I had like a really small bet on the Rockets. But the Cavs did win pretty easily. So for today, the rest becomes less likely. And also for that Cavs Thunder game, we don't have Lou Dort playing anymore. So a lot of what we talked about there, we'll come back to it in a minute, but a lot of it kind of went out the window. But this Mavericks Suns game is probably the main one that we should talk about before we go to today, because I ended up losing a little bit over 2 units on this game, even though we had Mavericks value.
Yeah, how did you get there? I was a little bit unplugged yesterday, so I'm not saying it's wrong, but
Luka Doncic rolled his ankle 3 minutes into the game and was done for the night.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what happened. So
Live lines.
At minimum, if you bet on Dallas and Luka gets hurt in the first quarter, hedge the bet.
Yeah.
Like, just get out of the bet at minimum. But given our numbers, so it's always hard to live bet because you then have to plug in to like your mental model, what should the line be now with the new score? Because it's not 0-0 anymore. So just to give like what the game would have been beforehand, like how to do this going forward, because people can definitely overreact if they see an injury. And that's aside from the fact that if a guy goes to the locker room, it doesn't necessarily mean he's done for the night. Right. In this case, though, we found out he was done for the night during the first quarter. Like, he played 3 minutes. There was like 4 or 5 minutes there where we weren't sure, and then they announced he was done for the game. It was still the first quarter. So at that point, or I guess to go back to what it would have been before the game, we had Dallas projected -0.5 point, and the line was like +1.5. So we had a small Dallas edge at like 2-point edge on the spread. Luka is worth like 7.5. So you remove him, we go from a 2-point edge on Dallas to a 5.5 point edge on Phoenix.
Yep.
So one thing to keep in mind is that over the course of a game, everything is going to condense in terms of how much value there is. Because
in the first quarter, I would have treated that instead of like 5 or 5.5, maybe 4, and that would be based on what the score. If the score was tied, and I'm assuming the score is not tied, so then you got to kind of adjust from there. Is that fair?
Yeah. So you're kind of like eyeballing that. I think that's the way to do it. Like if you have a 5.5 point edge before the game, that's going to shrink as the game goes on because the sample size is shrinking.
Yep.
Like if you have a 5.5 point edge on the full game, you only have a 2 3/4 edge on the half, and you have like a 1 and whatever on the first quarter. So the less time there is in the game, the smaller your edge is. But this was so early in the game. He got hurt 3 minutes in. If you bet it right there, it's basically as if you bet it before the game started. So at the end of the first quarter, the game was tied. And that made it really easy because Phoenix was -2.5 with a tie game at the end of the first quarter. Before the game had started, we would have just said pick 'em at that point is the fair line. I mean, sorry, if Luka was still playing, we would have said pick 'em is fair. Like we had it pick 'em before the game, tied at the end of the first quarter. It's still 50-50. With Luka out though for the night at the end of the first quarter, the line should have been about Phoenix -5. 4.5 or 5. And there were -2s and 2.5s. So I hedged my original bet, and then I went over on the other side. And then then at halftime was when I tweeted about it finally. Like I was trying to just react during the first quarter, but you have to be careful of like what information is known by the market. So I kind of have this in my head of like, what should a 1-point underdog be at halftime if they're down 6? The fair line would be like 3.5 or 4. Like if you're a 6-point underdog, or if you're a 1-point underdog before the game, you're down 6 at halftime, the live line's going to be somewhere like halfway between those numbers. But with Luka getting ruled out, I had to do like another calculation of what that would be. So I put out the Suns should be -1 at halftime. And at the time, the market was anywhere from like even money to +125. Because all the books were like, some books are really good at pricing in the injury information right away.
Some must not be. I would imagine that's a very difficult thing to do on the fly.
Some books, it's as if they didn't know Luka was out.
Right. That's what I was going to say. That's
Yeah.
like a secret. That's like a really low key edge that, we probably don't have a lot of examples of this where we can take advantage of it, but I would be doing as much line shopping as I can because I would imagine they would be very, very different from book to book in these situations.
That is the point for sure. I'm glad you brought that one up. So at the end of a quarter, at the end of a half, you have a major injury. Get out multiple apps and check if there's an outlier. Because to just live bet it at the first one you see, like FanDuel at halftime had, I think, Suns -113, which is nowhere near as good as most of the market. So it really depends where you bet. Maybe the best thing to do there is just tweet at me. Like I'm not always going to be able to answer, but you can try. But I hope that this explanation at least gives some light as to what's going on there, because this will not be the last time. This one didn't work out because Phoenix still lost. So if you bet Dallas before the game and ignored all of this, good job. But like we had that Gobert one against Utah where live betting and hedging and even betting more the other way, that like you had to do that. That was the right move. It worked out. This one, it was still the right move. It just didn't work out because Spencer Dinwiddie couldn't miss a shot. And I don't want to spend too much time on DeAndre Ayton today, but I think he shot 7 of 23 from the field and couldn't grab. I think Dwight Powell stole 3 offensive rebounds from him in the last 3 minutes of the game. So maybe I'll put this tweet up for Mike JC.
It was a nice dig on Ayton.
You probably didn't see it, so I'll just show it to you now. Hold on. Yeah, you saw it, but I don't think Mike G saw it. Hold on. Where are we?
I did not. I'm waiting with
Here you go.
anticipation here.
How's this?
Nice.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, that game was frustrating. DeAndre Ayton has just continued to be terrible all season long. I hope they can trade him so that then our Suns' futures can look better and we can bet more of them. But yeah, I hope that live betting explanation helps. Yeah. What?
Have you heard anything from the Mavericks about Luka's future?
They are playing in Utah tomorrow. There is no line for that. My guess is he won't play, but we're going to have to wait.
It was a rolled ankle, right?
Yeah, and he was ruled out for the game so quickly that it must have been semi-serious.
I only saw it once. It looked like a couple days off kind of thing.
Yeah, like I don't think he didn't seem to be in enough pain where we'd be talking like multiple week high ankle sprain, but for him to sit out one more game, I think it makes perfect sense.
I agree. Maybe
even 2. They're playing at Utah, which is probably just too soon to play him. Then they get a home game against Detroit, which like, all right, they'll win that game without him. And then they don't play again until 2 days later for a home divisional game against New Orleans, which is February 2nd. My guess is that's the next time he plays.
I think that is their objective. Hopefully his ankle cooperates.
Yeah, because it could be longer. If we find out something about him, though, I think we can tie this into futures. Like, if we get a 3-4 week, if we get a multi-week update about Luka, even at even money, or -110 or whatever, Jokic for MVP has to be a bet.
Yeah.
Right, and then I think I would add
I kept thinking of a market to attack, like the Southwest Division. I don't want to lay 800 on the Grizzlies because, like, whatever.
Yeah. Especially
MVP,
with the
that
Steven Adams
sense.
injury, too. Yeah, with Adams out. Like,
Right.
But if there's a Dallas win total, Dallas to make the play-in tournament is also one. Because
Dallas over under 42.5, I'm seeing.
I mean, if Luka were out for a month somehow, Dallas to miss the playoffs is a bet.
Right.
At like
that I
any like
agree with.
they if he's not on this team, they're terrible. I don't know how they won this game last night. Is DeAndre Ayton really that bad? Maybe.
No, it's Spencer Dinwiddie takeover, bro.
And he's a negative player rating, and so is Christian Wood. That was
That surprises me a little. I actually like Dinwiddie.
he's just not efficient and just played really, really well last night. But he made like the typical Dinwiddie possession last night was dribble out the shot clock for 21 seconds and shoot a fadeaway three at the shot clock buzzer. And went with a 6-point lead at the end, he banked one of them in. It was not a sustainable way to play basketball, but he just kept making the shots. He's fine. He's a good backup, but he as the lead guy on the team, where now he's the one being doubled every possession.
Yeah, I'm
it's
probably
not
going
going to go
my
well.
DFS days where I'm
Right.
all about the counting stats, and it doesn't care about defense all that much.
He's really good statistically when he's the lead guy. Bet Rivers has both the Dallas playoff market and the play-in markets off the board, so it might be a little hard to find these. I just want to lay out if there's a number that we can point to if it's good or not. But I'm looking at Caesars. There's no Western Conference play-in odds. It may just be too hard to find anything. So maybe we don't need to spend too much time on that. Maybe let's
Fair
just
enough.
go to today. Like, if I see something about Luka, I
spent
will.
quite a bit on yesterday.
Yeah, if we see something about Luka, I'll tweet it. Yeah, I thought we were going to be
Sounds good.
on here for a shorter show, but I forgot about this whole Luka thing and futures and whatever. It's a lot.
Matt was like, "This is gonna be a really short show today." I'm like, "No, it's
And
not."
then, and then I showed
Literally
up with
never
my,
is.
with my Simmons essay. So.
Yeah, if you weren't here, it would have been a little shorter, a little bit. Okay, but today is pretty simple, so I'm not totally. It's not a problem that we did whatever we just did. Okay, so we have a few bets that are waiting on one piece of information, which is it's simple today, but we might have a bet on every game. So Miles Turner is questionable for. I feel like we've been here before. This
Yep.
feels like the exact MLK Day pick where Giannis was probable, Miles Turner is questionable, and we like Indiana if Turner plays. And then when that happened on that day, Giannis ended up also not playing. I don't know that that's on the table today, but he is probable. He's not confirmed. So I'm going to put this out there now. I think Indiana is worth getting some on already because even if Turner's out, this is still a small value. Like, worst case, there's still value on the Pacers.
This is one of those that, like, even if Turner's out, and like, there's like very few other players that matter a lot. I guess is the way to put it for
On the Pacers,
And
yeah,
then-
there isn't really any downside for that team. Yeah,
And
they're a
then,
pretty balanced roster after Halliburton, who's already out.
And then there is always the small chance that Milwaukee gives somebody a day off. So I think there's not a lot of downside in taking Indiana right now.
Yeah, and there's a lot of upside potentially. I mean, I'm certainly going to be logged in at 1:30. We get Bucks injury reports at, I guess, 1:30 local time, so that could be 2:30 today because they're in Central Time. But it could be 1:30. Like, at 1:28 and 2:28, get your apps logged in and be prepared for a possible Giannis downgrade.
Yes.
Because I think there's a 96% chance Giannis plays tonight. That 4% is real.
Yes.
He gets ruled out of nowhere all the time, and he's been dealing with a knee injury for like 2 months now. So, not an impossible outcome. I'm probably going to go half unit on the Pacers for now. If all we get is a Turner upgrade, I'll make that a 1-unit bet. But if we get a Giannis downgrade, then it becomes like a 7-unit bet.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the clear all-in spot.
Yeah, and then you just hedge after if you want.
Yep.
Okay, so that game, yeah, Turner is the most likely relevant person. Giannis, though, could be an additional thing. And the reason this game looks a little bit weird, like why aren't the Bucks favored by more? Bobby Portis being out does matter. And in a context where Bobby Portis is out, if Giannis were to get ruled out, the compounding there is strong. Giannis is worth more right now than he would have been any other time. Because
Gotcha.
Portis is his direct backup. I mean, Portis plays a lot anyway, but
Is Serge Ibaka a negative player?
Yeah.
Like a massive one?
I don't even think they can play him. I have no idea how
he's not an option. I think he's away from the team. He's like seeking a trade.
he's
but,
a
like,
-3. I mean, he
I
hasn't.
was just kind of wondering if that was like an actual downgrade for the team.
Yeah. He hasn't been productive in like 3 years. He was good in the bubble. Maybe was the last
Sure.
time he was good. So that would be a problem if they had to start him. I think they would probably just play like Nwora, Beauchamp, and Sandro and AJ Green, like they're bad players. They're playing G League guys. If I don't know if Thanasis would get on the court, but the Bucks are a little bit thin right now because Portis is out and George Hill I think is also out. They do have Ingles and they do have Middleton, but in the front court, a Giannis absence would be pretty strong. Like I would have had Giannis worth 5 to 5.5 points normally. I think without Portis, it's more like 6 or 6.5, maybe 7.
Is this one that the over then starts to look good? If there's no, like, if this going to be small ball, is this a run and gun type game, or is
Brook
it
Lopez is
too
still
fragile
gonna be
because
right?
you don't have
it's too unpredictable. The total's also so high already at 239 that I think you may be right, but there's no way to have conviction on that. I think if Turner's out and Giannis is out, that's a different story.
Got it.
Yeah,
I think that's what he was saying too.
Yeah, if both of them went, I mean, Turner is a pretty strong impact for totals also. So yeah, if that's what you're saying, Turner gets ruled out and then Giannis gets ruled out. I wouldn't bet the under, that's for sure. I don't know though. Okay, so the other thing to watch is because Giannis is probable, we will have the opportunity to bet props if he's out. So that's Holiday, that's Middleton. It's not really Lopez and Allen. Their usage doesn't go up too much, but it's Middleton and Holiday for sure. Like at 128, I will have some of those in my bet slip. Some Middletons and some Holidays.
I agree.
You got to be ready for those. Okay, Memphis, Minnesota.
Stay ready.
Yep. Memphis, Minnesota is another weird compounding game because as part of Underdog's new thing where they don't tweet all the injury news, they just tweet the major players. They're gonna sometimes have a name where it actually matters to us a lot, but no one else cares. And in this case, it's John Konchar. So because Konchar is out, Bane is worth more because we're gonna have to have David Roddy again.
Yep.
If Bane is out now, David Roddy is getting most of his minutes.
Oof.
Yeah, because they're already missing. I think it is just Konchar. Steven Adams is out, but that doesn't matter for this part of it. It does matter for why we would project Minnesota value, because Steven Adams is one of the most underrated players in the league. He can't shoot free throws, but his rating is a 2.0 because he's really good defensively. He might be the best rebounder in basketball, and his ability to set screens actually makes him a positive offensive player, even though he doesn't do anything when he has the ball. Like I think people around the league.
He's my hero.
Yeah. I think people around the league know him as a really good screen setter, which is why he actually can be on the court. Because his actual skill with the ball is really terrible. I think he's an okay passer, but he can't do anything scoring-wise.
He probably played hockey in his last life.
He probably played hockey and lacrosse and rugby. I would imagine him playing everything. So Adams is out. Yeah. That's already why we're showing Minnesota edge, because he's pretty undervalued. And then if Bane gets ruled out, Bane is worth more in this context than he would have been otherwise. So this one is simple. If Bane gets ruled out, we have Minnesota at +3. And it's a 3.7 edge or so. But it's nothing if Bane plays. Rudy Gobert is also questionable. I'm ignoring this now. Gobert's playing.
Maybe Minnesota just is like way too loose with their Q tags.
Yeah, they are. And Gobert has played multiple games in a row. Now he's had a day off. He said after the last game he was fine. He said after the game before that he was fine. I do have a slight negative adjustment on Minnesota because I do think he's playing a little bit hurt, and so is Edwards. I think they're playing through stuff. I already have that accounted for. But I think Gobert and Giannis have roughly the same chance to be out tonight. I think it's less than 5% for both of them.
Fair enough.
So ignoring Gobert, if people are wondering, where's Gobert? Why don't you have him listed? I think he's almost certainly in. So that's that game. We do have a bit of an edge on Miami, but this line doesn't include Jonathan Isaac, which is probably another like 0.2 of a point. Because Jonathan Isaac is pretty good. He's like, I guess he's like around average right now. But his minutes are so low that his spread impact is going to be small because he's playing like 12 minutes right now or something. But that's not on here yet. So once I rerun that, our projected line is going to be like Miami -10. And where's unabated? Okay, I'm going to have to log in. Hold on. I think there are 7.5s available still. So that gives us a 2.5 point edge on the Heat. So this is a bet right now, I think. Did we lose?
I'm not seeing any 7.5.
Did we lose all the
sites,
7.5s? Yeah, Deck Prism is not a book that anyone has access to. All right, but it's still some edge at 8.
Yep.
And at FanDuel, it's 8 at -106. So that is almost as good as 7.5 at -110. It's pretty close.
Agreed.
If you feel like having 7.5, you can just bet the alternate line, and it'll be like -112 or something like that.
Have they said anything about minutes for Isaac? I mean, I know they're bringing him along. He hadn't played in like 2 years. So.
They've been slowly increasing. He played like 8 minutes, then he played 12 minutes, but he's out tonight, so it doesn't matter tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. They keep giving an update. He gets like 2 extra minutes every game or something. It's going to be a while before he plays real minutes. Probably. I mean, I don't think he'll be playing 20 or more until next season. I don't know why they would. Or maybe it's like low 20s late in the year or something like that. He's not going to be playing big minutes anytime soon. Especially because they're playing for Wembanyama, right? Like they don't need to win.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Back to, all right, we have 2 other games.
Do you have anything on OKC so far?
I did yesterday, but I regret it. Like, we shouldn't have. I mean, it made sense at the time, but Lou Dort got ruled out of nowhere. So Dort is worth almost 2 points to the Thunder, and that's why this doesn't look good anymore. Because I think Mitchell is going to be out again. And if Dort were playing, we would have had like a 2 to 3 point edge on OKC. But now if Mitchell gets rolled out, we have nothing. It's just exactly fair. The market basically has Mitchell priced out, and we think he's out, and yeah, this all lines up. So if for some reason Mitchell gets upgraded, it's a really strong bet on Cleveland. I think he has a 10% chance to play at most, though. Like, I just don't think I don't think they're going to play him tonight. And then
I'm going to look ahead on the schedule real quick.
Well, Cleveland also had a blowout win last night, so I don't think anyone else will rest. And they sat Kevin Love yesterday to have him ready for this game, I think. Like, Garland getting a night off would be weird. He's young enough, I don't think. Unless last night's game had been really close or really taxing or had gone to overtime, I think those are the only ways we would have gotten a Garland rest game, unless we find out there's an injury. Obviously, that can change. But that's not any different than any other game. Same for Jared Allen, same for Evan Mobley. But the 2 guys we would really care about would be Garland or Allen. Those are, after Mitchell, the 2 best players on the team. So if Mitchell somehow gets upgraded, Cleveland is a bet, but I think that's super unlikely. And if no other news happens, it's just nothing. Yeah. Lou Dort is a really good defender, and we don't have him, so that kind of ruined what we were thinking there. The last one is we have a bet on the Raptors if Wiggins doesn't play. And this one seems, I think, pretty likely he'll be out. He got sick like late in the day. When was that? Wednesday. So he got downgraded like an hour before the game, and then he wasn't at practice yesterday. So it doesn't look good for his chances. If we get Warriors shoot around though, that'll be the tell.
Yep.
Because we're talking about an illness. So if Wiggins is not at shoot around, I'm
Toronto's been fairly healthy recently, right?
Yeah, I still have the slight negative manual adjustment for them playing hurt.
Right.
Van Vliet looks healthier now. I actually think he may be fine. Anunoby is playing through an injury. If anything, the negative manual adjustments may not be necessary anymore. Van Vliet has looked really good lately.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we want to go ahead and get on some Raptors here.
Yeah. I mean, even if Wiggins plays, it's not bad.
That's what I'm thinking. It seems okay right now. It's like worth a little sliver. I don't see the 5.5s though. I'm only seeing 5s.
With even with Wiggins playing, like this is going to sound kind of crazy, we have the Raptors rated as a better team than the Warriors right now.
Right.
And that will not be true in the playoffs because right now Curry plays 34 minutes, Draymond plays 31 minutes, Clay plays 30 minutes, Poole is playing a lot, and Poole is not nearly as good as any of those people. Looney is playing less minutes because he's been fatigued, and we remember how good Looney was in the Boston series in the finals last year. The playoff Warriors, where they're playing Curry 40 and Wiggins 40 and Draymond 35 and Clay 35, that team is so much better than the current team where James Wiseman and Anthony Lamb and Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody are on the court. Like, regular season Warriors is a good team, but it's not a great team. Playoff Warriors is a great team. But this is regular season Warriors, and the Raptors are playing their guys tons of minutes. So the Warriors have better players than the Raptors, but the Raptors play their guys more, and because of that, their team rating is higher.
Yep.
And then if you take Wiggins out, there's, an even stronger case for a Toronto bet. So I feel pretty good about this one. This is probably not going to be a game the market or the public likes. There will be a lot of Warriors bettors out there tonight. I may have to pull up one of those. You don't understand NBA gambling if you're betting on that. Yeah, this could be another one for that, because the public will clearly not be with us on this one.
Well, do you think the 5.5 or 6 could be open later then?
If Wiggins gets upgraded, it will be.
Okay,
so that's why you would wait.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, because you can get a little bit higher of a line if he's in, but if he's out, you just take whatever you can get when he gets ruled out. But I'm not waiting for official confirmation. I'm waiting for a shoot-around update.
Right.
Because we're dealing with an illness. The shoot-around will be very telling.
Yep.
And, yeah, I guess that was a quick overview of today. That's pretty much it. The other part about the Suns game that was bad is the division.
Yes.
We kind of wanted that one. I still feel like they're in it. I don't know. Do we need to give a daily update of what the hierarchy in that division is? It's really close between all the teams now. And the Clippers are emerging too. Like, the Clippers aren't totally out of it, because they've been winning while these other teams have had a couple of bad losses.
Yeah, they got four in a row now for the Clippers.
Yeah.
Where do you put the Kings?
All right, let's do
in the hierarchy of that division. Where are you putting the first place? But Matt doesn't believe they're good enough to be first place.
This is like my true, like, I don't want to believe, but like I have to change my mind at some point, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm asking. So Matt, have you changed your mind, or
I'm just changing my mind slightly. I'm just changing it slightly every day. I think the Clippers in the last couple of days have gone from like 10 or 12% up to like 18 or 20%. Maybe even above 20. Because the Clippers they beat Dallas on the road, and they then beat the Lakers on the road, which I guess is a fine win. They beat the Spurs at home, which is nothing, but the Kings had a bad loss, the Warriors had a bad loss, the Suns had a somewhat bad loss. I mean, Luka was out, so they should have won that game. But Dallas is a good team in general. So right now, 538 has all of these teams projected one game from each other.
Yeah.
I think the Suns have the most upside for potential to improve in the regular season. The Warriors have the most potential to improve in the playoffs. Yeah, the Suns are going to do something because they have Jay Crowder. They have to do something. And Booker, I think, is a week or so away. So I'm going to say Suns are like 27%. Kings and Warriors are like 24%. And then what does that leave us? Then that makes the Clippers like 19 and the Lakers, whatever else, like 6 or 7. Maybe a little bit less. And at current odds, it makes the Suns slightly plus EV still. Their probability came down a bit. The odds have also come down a little bit. And I think everyone else is basically priced fairly. Although we may get to a point soon where the Clippers look like a good bet again.
What would you be looking for a Clippers bet right now?
North of 5-1 right now. Yeah, anything 5-1 or better.
I want to see in 450s.
The Clippers have a back-to-back coming up in Atlanta, in Cleveland. I kind of want to see if they can win those. I hope they don't. Like, I don't want this team to. We have a bunch of play-in bets on them. But if they were to win one or more of those games, I think it is worth waiting, because those are two games where they should lose. They should, and I think Mitchell also, part of the reason to sit him against OKC tonight is to play him against the Clippers in 2 nights. Like, that is a better team that it would be more relevant to have him. What is the line, though? 440 for the Clippers? Like, it's not. That's on FanDuel. If you can find a 5-1, maybe it's worth a little bit, but it's right. They're like right on the fringe of plus EV territory if it's in the 400s.
Yeah, I see a couple 450s.
Yeah, I mean 19% 450. That's like the tiniest value ever.
Yeah.
The break even is like 410.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they win their next game.
This division's been all over the place, and
it's crazy.
There's so much. This division, as much as anybody, is one that has more teams that may look quite different.
Yeah.
Trade deadline time. I mean, really look at any one of the teams. The Lakers have to make a move.
All five could make a deal.
LeBron happy. The Phoenix has to make a move for the Jay Crowder. The Clippers have to make a move because their two best guys are free agents next year.
Right.
So this might be their last chance.
The thing with those teams, though, with the Lakers and the Clippers, is their moves are their fans are gonna care about them, but they're not gonna be impactful moves. Trading for Rui Hachimura is not relevant.
I'm not talking about that kind of
Okay,
trade.
but I think the Lakers and the Clippers don't have the ability to make a move that is bigger than that.
It only takes one sucker on the other side of a trade.
Like, Bojan Bogdanovic doesn't move the needle enough.
Fair.
He has a 0 player rating, I'm pretty sure. Like, it would help to play Bogdanovic instead of... He's at -1.5. To play him instead of Troy Brown will help a little bit. But it's not huge. Like, Pirtle could wind up in Golden State. Like, that would be a really big deal. Or if Miles Turner gets traded to Phoenix or something like that. Those are much better players than, if the Clippers trade for Naz Reid. Like, okay, that doesn't really change much.
No, I'm with you. It's more like for the Lakers, it's if they could talk some team into Westbrook. So,
yeah,
take Westbrook and their 27 and 29 first-round pick. Those 2 draft picks are considered like among the top 5 assets right now that anybody has. So you have to trade a player along with it. So
those are among the top 5 available assets because, like, Utah can trade for everybody if they want to.
I guess things that for teams that are likely to trade. So, like, OKC isn't going to. OKC has the treasure trove. Right. I should have qualified that.
No. I guess it would be insane to classify that with other. Okay. No, I understand.
Right. For things that are potential to move. So that's where the Lakers, if they pack it, if they get the combo, if they could get some impactful player and lose Westbrook, I think the double whammy there helps them this year.
Right.
Because they're merging their future, giving away that 27-29 pick, but that's what LeBron does with teams.
Imagine not having another first-round pick for the rest of the decade.
Yeah. So,
they'll get free agents to sign there anyway. Yeah. True. But if they can get rid of Westbrook and replace him with Buddy Hield, they do get a good amount better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where it's the combo. If they, the addition by subtraction by getting rid of Westbrook and bring in a positive player, that's where they could look significantly different. Just any one of these teams, the Rui trade, yay, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. But these teams, we keep talking about it. We'll have to plan when we're going to do our trade deadline preview, and then we talked about doing a live stream during the trade deadline. There's a lot of things that are going to. I haven't done this in the past. Do the books take futures down on trade deadline day?
No, they react as they would for anything. I remember it from Harden. It was up, but it just got taken down very quickly.
Yeah.
They shouldn't post championship and conference odds during the deadline day, but they did for.
Of course not. Yeah, that's insane.
Not every book is going to take them down, though. Some might. There might, like DraftKings may do it. The other thing with the Westbrook trade is 6th man of the year becomes wide open if he gets moved.
Yeah.
So we'll have to talk about that too. He's like minus odds to win that award. I don't know who's supposed to win it. I still feel like Tyrese Maxey can emerge as the favorite at some point. He's 10-1 right now.
We got a plus 2,000 on him. Actually.
Yeah, he's already dropped to 1,000. But if like Westbrook were to get moved, Maxey probably is a co-favorite with Brogdon or something.
Right.
So a lot to keep an eye on for that, for sure.
Yep. All right. Anything else noteworthy?
I don't think so. Yeah, I feel like today was concise, so it was easy to like have time to go through all these things.
Got it.
Maxing down to plus 700, I'm seeing.
Wow. Yeah. All right, so we regular time tomorrow. I'll be sure to join on time this time. And keep an eye on the preaching.
Were you napping on the couch? I'm just curious.
What's that?
Were you napping on the couch? I'm just curious.
No, I actually was on a call with the other job.
Oh, okay. That was my prediction. I thought you got up at 5 a.m. and were working and just like caught some snooze.
Anyway, I'll be back at start time tomorrow, as we all will be. Keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account through the day. If there's breaking news, _NBA, always good as well. Good luck us tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.